Jacque Sue Rosen was born in Bonterra, Missouri, in 1971. She was always close to her parents and loved her sisters very much. In the 1990s, Jacque married James Clay Aller, whom everyone knew as Clay. Jacque's parents never approved of her choice. "He seemed arrogant and totally unsuitable for our family," her father said. Clay worked briefly for the local sheriff's department, but was soon fired and changed jobs frequently, never staying anywhere for long. Jacque, working as a manager for a company, effectively provided for the family. For several years, the couple tried to have children, but without success. Eventually, Jacque resorted to IVF and gave birth to triplets, Avery, Maddox, and Edison. According to Jacque's sister, Clay was an inactive father and rarely helped his wife care for the babies. Despite this, Jacque enjoyed motherhood and the craziness of life with 3 children. She was a caring and loving mother, but became increasingly frustrated with her husband. Not only was Clay a lazy father and a bad husband, but he was emotionally and physically overwhelming to Jacque, causing her to become estranged from him. When the children were a little older, Jacque decided to discuss divorce with him. In December 2010, she began keeping a journal on her work computer where she recorded threats from Clay. "I told him I was going to file for divorce," she wrote. "He replied that it felt like one of us wouldn't be around to watch our children grow up." Jacque even told her sister that Clay threatened to kill her and the children. She feared for her life and the lives of her children. In the spring of 2011, after another loss of Clay's job and the loss of her home, Jacque decided to finally break up with her husband. She moved in with her sister and brother-in-law and filed for divorce. Clay moved to Jackson, Missouri. Both began dating other people. It seemed Jacque was finally able to free herself from her abusive husband. On June 1, 2011, she went to Jackson to meet with Clay and their divorce attorney. After the meeting, Jacque called her sister Cheryl and said she was going to Clay's house to pick up her son Maddox and then would go home. No one else saw her. When Jacque did not return home, Cheryl's sister began calling her, but there was no answer. She also left several messages for Clay. Cheryl intuitively felt that Clay might have hurt her sister, but he denied everything, claiming that he didn't know where Jacque was and hung up on Cheryl. Cheryl drove to Jackson and reported Jacque missing. Although Jacque had only been missing for a few hours, the police considered her disappearance a serious matter and began an immediate investigation. Clay was questioned by detectives. He revealed that Jacque had returned to his home and they had taken a nap together. Their son Maddox was with Clay's girlfriend in Illinois at the time. Clay stated that he and Jacque had an argument and she left. He then went to get a soda, and when he returned, Jacque's car was gone. He again said he did not know where his ex-wife was. The serious case investigation team got on the case and quickly found Jacque's car on the highway with a flat tire. However, the rim was not bent, indicating that the tire had been punctured on the spot and the scene was rigged. Clay quickly hired an attorney and refused to allow authorities to search his car, his home, or Jacque's car, but police quickly obtained a search warrant. They found blood in Clay's car and on the back of Jacque's car. Forensic experts reported it was fish blood. A video was found on Clay's phone showing him applying blood to cars to trick police. Clay was playing games with the investigation while Jacque was still missing. Other evidence was also found during the search. Blood stains were found in the hallway of Clay's home and the carpet was removed. Eventually, the rug, covered in blood, was found rolled up in Clay's basement. Forensics showed that the blood belonged to Jacque. Something terrible had happened in that hallway, but Clay wasn't going to cooperate with the authorities. This evidence proved to be crucial. However, detectives still didn't know where Jacque was, and many feared she was already dead. Surveillance cameras recorded Clay going to the toy store that evening with his girlfriend and son, Edox. In the back of his truck were a boat and a large trash can. Later, video from the car wash shows him thoroughly cleaning the boat. Witnesses from Alexander County, Illinois, on the other side of the river, saw a man in a boat near a sandbar known as Devil's Island. Police searched the area, but found no trace of Jacque. As the search continued, Clay continued to taunt the police. During this time, Jacque's sister, Cheryl, was fighting for custody of the children. Because of suspicions about Clay, the family court awarded custody of the children to Cheryl. This infuriated Clay, and he posted a threatening message online claiming he would eventually kill Cheryl. Police arrested him on federal charges related to the death threats, as well as theft charges related to a previous job. Clay was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for the threats. Prosecutors eventually gathered enough circumstantial evidence to convict Clay of Jacque's murder, despite the absence of a body. He was charged with first-degree murder. Before trial, his attorneys approached the prosecution with a plea offer. Clay agreed to tell authorities where Jacque's remains were located in exchange for a 20-year prison sentence. With the consent of Jacque's family, the prosecution took a deal with him. Nearly 2 years after Jacque's disappearance, Clay told detectives that she was buried under a tree on Devil's Island in Alexander County, Illinois. Her remains were found, and the family was able to give her a proper burial. Clay confessed to the crime on camera, saying that more than a year before the murder, Jacque had been talking about divorce, and he responded to her, "You take these kids away from me, and I'll kill you." He accused Jacque of trying to leave and take his children, and said it was mostly her fault. Clay also revealed that he had dug a hole to bury her the day before the fateful encounter. In his confession, he continued to confuse the investigation. Clay stated that on the day they were meeting with a lawyer about the divorce, Jacque asked him for a last date and returned to his home to make love. He said he accidentally bumped his head on her nose, causing it to bleed. Jacque allegedly became upset and threatened to charge him with domestic violence. Clay claimed he was provoked and lost control, first beating her and then choking her. He then buried her in Illinois in a hole he had dug beforehand. Investigators believe he lured Jacque back into the house under the pretense of taking her son, and the crime was premeditated. Clay admitted that while he was at the store with his girlfriend and son, Jacque's body was in a dumpster in the back of his truck. He buried her after this trip to the store. In court, Clay continued to accuse Jacque of everything without feeling guilty. His plea bargain only allowed him to be sentenced to 20 years in prison. Clay Waller showed no remorse for his actions, even when his son Maddox made an emotional statement. "Dear Dad, it's me, Maddox, your son. You betrayed me. You know what you have done. You ruined our mom. You betrayed your children. Do you know that? I want you to never be my father. I never want to see you again in my life. We don't need you anymore. This is the last time you'll ever hear from me," Maddox finished his speech. However, Clay didn't seem to realize the seriousness of his actions, even as he confessed to another crime. In the course of his confession, Clay violated a rarely enforced federal law regarding interstate acts of domestic violence. Because he dug a grave in Illinois and then traveled to Missouri with the intent to commit violence, he committed federal offenses added to the Missouri murder charge. Clay pleaded guilty to these charges and was sentenced to an additional 35 years in federal prison, which will begin to run when his 20-year term in Missouri ends. Clay Waller wrote a piece titled, "If You Take My Children, I Will Kill You," but his prosecution on federal charges did not allow him to profit from his crimes. Instead, the piece was used as evidence against him. Clay is serving his time in prison and is not eligible for release until 2047. The 3 children are adopted by Jacque's sister, Cheryl. They now live relatively normal lives, surrounded by a loving family. Every year on June 1st, Cheryl organizes a special day to honor Jacque's memory. They gather as a family, remembering her caring and loving nature, her strength and courage. Cheryl tells the children about the wonderful woman their mother was and reminds them that Jacque will always be a part of their lives. This tradition helps keep Jacque's memory bright and also reminds them of the importance of love and support within the family. Despite the tragedy, the children grow up in an atmosphere of love and care, knowing that their mom is always with them, albeit in a different form. Cheryl does her best to ensure that Jacque's children are surrounded by the warmth and support that Jacque always wanted to give them. Don't miss the other shocking stories. Follow the link and subscribe to the channel and share your comments.